Okay, this is the third video for week 10 and it's a continuation on fiscal policy, and we're going to look now at some of the implications for this type of intervention. And we're going to think first of all of automatic stabilisation. And we think of this as perhaps the effects of government spending and net taxation have a degree of automatic effect on the economy. So we think of fiscal policy as a specific attempt to stimulate or to cool growth, and the effects are perhaps quite automatic. So as incomes rise, tax receipts go up, and it's cooling the rises. So tax receipts go up, it takes the money away from the households, reducing their ability to spend, and therefore cooling any rises because there's lack of money to actually spend. If incomes fall though, then benefits help support those without income, and the slowing does fall to an extent. If we think of things like universal credit or any other benefits paid to increase the minimum income levels, either way, it's an automatic way of slowing the economy. So policies on growth and shrinkage, which doesn't imply government have stepped in and made a conscious effort to intervene. It's tempting to think that fiscal policy is put in by the government, and how it works is relatively automatic. If we think about with progressive taxation, and it's something with this automatic increase. So when the tax rate goes up, as income goes up, and we think of income tax, and you can see below here the UK income tax bands for 2017. Basically, high rates equals a high tax to pay, and low rates equals a low tax to pay. So in effect, the richer people pay not just proportionately more because they have more money, but the rate of tax is higher, and it's referred to as progressive, and it has the effect of trying to reduce inequality and to try to bring a large and small pay closer together. However, that being said, generally it's not actually that effective, as there are other ways of divide, but at least this policy is actually trying to reduce the effects. If we think about discretionary fiscal policy, this is the opposite of automatic fiscal policy, and it refers to changes in government spending on taxation designed to affect the economy. So if we think about increased government spending on, say, roads, leads to a full multiplied effect on GDP. So it's something which is specifically put in to stimulate or reduced. And if we think about something being multiplied, remember, we expect it to stimulate and expect to see the effort well in excess of the amount spent. It can lead to decreased taxation or increased benefits, which leads to a reduced multiplied effect on GDP. So why? Well, it's actually to an increase in disposable income, but only part of it's going to be spent on domestic goods and services, because some's going to be saved, some's going to be spent on imports, and therefore withdrawn. So discretionary fiscal policy is still of benefit to GDP, but it's reduced. If we were to consider the effectiveness of fiscal policy, it's a really useful tool and governments use it all the time, but it's not without its problems. It's very difficult in actually predicting the effects of change on the government expenditure. The crowding out in search of the private finance. I mean, how will the private sector react to this intervention? The difficulty in predicting the effects of change on taxation. And it's really hard to be accurate in stimulating growth. It's very much a blunt instrument. The only known effects are they're known roughly, but they don't know the exact effects on GDP. It's uncertain, or it depends. And it's all about this difficulty in these predictions. The random shocks, well, they happen all the time. Natural disasters, for example, and impossible to predict, and this does impact the economy. the timings, the time lags. It's hard to know when a change will actually take place. And we suffer from imperfect information. There's not a full knowledge of the economy and how it works and what will happen if we intervene. So the information we have is imperfect. And we have to accept we're not sure. And we have to put this in when being planned. We think about fiscal rules, and there does have to be clearly some rules to remove uncertainties. So they're set by governments to limit the capacity to use fiscal policy to control the economy. So a balanced budget within a specified time frame, there could be a commitment to this. As we said earlier, Conservatives make commitment in their manifestos to do this and to try and get spending under control. Debt rules. So actually they'll only borrow to within a certain percentage of the GDP. Think of countries like Spain and Greece with huge debts which will be impossible to pay back. Expenditure rules. Set government expenditure for a period, setting a maximum level. And revenue rules, floor or ceiling on government revenue collection, again putting a maximum on it. The importance of these rules, and if you actually look on this next map I've got here, it actually shows fiscal rules by country, and the countries in grey have signed up to fiscal rules, including places like China, Canada, India, much of Africa and Asia. And those in dark blue, which is Australia and the EU, have signed up to 3 or more rules, which includes the UK. So our next video we'll start talking about monetary policy.